Hey, welcome to my new video series where we're gonna dive deeper into some specific topics when it comes to building and designing an effective workout program for yourself that's gonna help you make more progress, okay? So we're gonna dive into the fundamentals behind it, and in today's video, to start it off, we're going to be diving into reps in reserve and the rate of perceived exertion, or RPE scale. So let's go ahead and dive in. What's good, YouTube? It's your boy John Mango, and I'm back again repping Beyond the Iron. You already know, fitness content every single week, so if you're looking to get your goals faster, hit the subscribe button below. Also, if you haven't yet and you're looking for a new program to start, you can always check out the ones that I just released, whether you're doing a 6-day per week split or a 3-day per week split. The links are in the description below for some insane programs I put together that are going to help you get the results that you want if you're looking to pack on some serious muscle, so make sure you check those out. Now with that said, like I mentioned, RPE and RIR, reps in reserve, rate of perceived exertion. Now I'm going to quickly put a screenshot of what this chart looks like. So if you're not sure what it is, it's essentially a chart or a scale, if you will, that essentially helps us determine how many, as the name implies, reps we are leaving in the tank or reps in reserve we have, and it correlates with RPE. So a lot of people have heard of the RPE, but they're not quite sure how it works. So essentially, just to make it very blatant and straightforward, if you finish off a set, you rack the weight, and you are at an 8 RPE, okay, the scale goes up to a 10 in this case when it comes to the correlation with the RIR scale. If you hit an 8 on the scale, that essentially means that you've got 2 reps left in the tank. You could have performed with proper form on that exercise. If you're a 9, you only had 1 rep left in the tank. There's also 0.5s. If you're at a 9.5, that means you had about half a rep left. Now you're probably thinking, well, what's half a rep? And basically, it's what it implies, right? Where you're basically coming down, you're going up, and you are basically right before you can lock out or finish a lift, you might need some help. Typically, if you're at a 9.5 RPE, then it's probably not worth going for that rep. You might as well stop at the 9 or the 8.5, etc. Obviously, a 10 RPE, 10 out of 10 means you had no reps left. So every 1 rep max, if it's a true max, should be taken to a 10 RPE. So that's basically how it works. As you see, it is very straightforward in that regard. But the question is, what's the importance of it? Why and how do we implement it to see some good results in our workouts? So it's very important to know this and to leverage this scale, because it allows for self-regulation or auto-regulation throughout your workouts and throughout your program. And why that's important is because essentially, if you think about it, right, we've got a lot of days where we go into the gym and maybe you've got your plan laid out from what you hit last week or what numbers you need to hit this week, right? Hopefully you have that plan, because it's very important. And based off that plan, you're saying, okay, I should be able to lift this weight for this amount of reps, this amount of sets. At least that's the plan. But sometimes things don't go as planned. Obviously, why? Because there's so many physiological factors beneath the surface, or some sort of discrepancy in your nutrition beforehand or the day of, that kind of stuff, maybe your sleep. All these factors start factoring in, and it might be one of those days where you just aren't nearly as strong as you were hoping or should have been. So the RPE scale is a great way to auto-regulate on the fly. So for example, in that workout, maybe you go in, you're supposed to hit 200 pounds on the bench for 10 reps, and you do your first set and you hit 200 and you're on your 5th rep and you realize, damn, I think I might have 2 reps left in the tank. That's definitely not going to be enough. So you rack the weight, you know that you're at an 8 RPE at 5 reps. You were supposed to be at an 8 RPE at 10 reps on the first set. And so what you can do is say, okay, I understand I'm a little weaker, so you're going to auto-regulate. You're going to drop the weight, let's say 10 to 20%, and try to get back up to an 8 RPE at a higher rep threshold. I hope that makes sense. Also, it helps for auto-regulation in the long term over a periodized program. Now, how that works is basically if you've got cycles of progression, which hopefully you do, throughout each mesocycle or each training block, as you progress throughout the blocks, when you're recording your RPE, basically when you look back at those notes and you look at the progression, you can see that maybe you need to adjust a little bit more aggressively when you start the next block after your deload, or maybe you need to restart with the same weight because it was too difficult and you were hitting too high of an RPE on sets that you shouldn't have been. So these are a couple examples as to why it's very important to know this and why it's a very valuable tool. Again, make sure it's a tool, not something you rely and solely depend on for reasons I'll get into in a sec, but still a very powerful tool nonetheless. See, RPE is very good because it scales to the individual in the specific scenario, right? So like I mentioned, you go in expecting a certain outcome or result, but something just something's off that day, and so using RPE on the fly in that scenario is great to auto-regulate, and it's going to allow you to still see progress under the current circumstance you're in. You see, something that we don't realize is we feel like we look and feel the same each day, or we're progressing in a linear fashion. Of course, that's never the case, or at least it hardly ever is. And so some days, you know, you may be having some of those physiological factors I mentioned beforehand impact you in a negative way, right? Maybe you had a little bit less sleep, maybe you were a little bit dehydrated, maybe you had a late meal, or you were fasted, or any sort of factor that's happening. The thing that we don't realize is just because we're weaker on the absolute scale doesn't mean that you can't progress given that context of the situation you're in. Meaning, the last time you were sleep deprived, dehydrated, and fasted, you performed worse than this time. So what you don't see is you actually made progress even though the numbers on paper are lower, and the RPE allows you to adjust according to how you're feeling, how you're performing that day. And so like I said, it's good to scale and help you perform in a specific context. So how you would apply this to your training, what I would simply recommend is just make sure that you are recording it. So I would definitely build out a progression scheme, whether it's linear, undulating, whatever the case is, throughout your periodized program, right? Each block is going to have its progression schemes, and through that progression, as you're recording weights, you know, when you go in and actually hit them and go to the gym, what I like to do is I like to record and actually take note of my RPE on typically the last set, okay? Unless I needed to do a random auto-regulation adjustment on the spot, I'll make note of that as well. But typically the RPE on the last set, at least, if you wanted to make it so you could do it on every set, but having that and knowing that is good, because next time I revisit that, it's gonna let me know, look, I hit 210 pounds on the bench for 12 reps, and it was a 10 RPE on that last set. So it's probably a better idea for the next time for me to stay with the same weight and try to make it a 9 RPE by the last set, because that is still progress, as opposed to jumping up 5 or 10 pounds and trying to hit the same reps or a little bit less, because the RPE is there. I hope that makes sense. Again, if you understand this, it is a very powerful tool to use. Also, this goes hand in hand with the video I made somewhat recently on training to failure. You can check it out right here. Basically, knowing how many reps in reserve you have is important, because you don't necessarily want to be hitting failure very often, if at all, most of the time, because it's actually going to hold you back from making the progress that you're looking to make. And so RPE, reps and reserves, helps you stay away from hitting failure too often, or even at all, on the times that it's not ideal to do so. One thing to keep in mind before we close out is RPE can be somewhat inaccurate the less experienced you are. Also, it's inaccurate the further away you are from a 10 out of 10 RPE. So I'll give you an example. If you feel like you're at a 6 RPE, it's very hard to determine if you had 4 reps left in the tank, because maybe you do the next one and it's extremely difficult, right? We all know that that happens. And so for that reason, keep in mind that the further away you are from a 10 out of 10 RPE, the harder it is to accurately assess what RPE you're at. Typically, you want to work within the 7 to 10 RPE range for maximum accuracy. And again, beginners and intermediates typically aren't as in tune with their bodies to know very accurately how many reps they may have had left in the tank, whereas advanced lifters typically obviously would know a little bit better. So there's of course discrepancy, and that's why ultimately this is a tool that you can use, and something that I think you should add into your workout planning, programming, and tracking to make sure that you make the most out of it and that you're always progressing progressing in the right direction despite potential daily circumstances and contexts that may seem to be holding you back in the moment. So with that said, guys, I hope that you found this one helpful. It was a lot more informative today, a lot more technical, but I know I've been requested to do some more of these topics where I'm diving deeper into actual workout program stuff. If you want an overall basic starting point for building your workout program, check this video out right here and it'll take care of you. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you want, like I said, check out my programs that I'm offering down below. You've got a push-pull legs and a full body workout program, both guaranteed to give you some sick gains. With that said, any questions or comments about anything, drop them in the comments below. Don't forget to share with your friends that need to make some damn gains. Don't forget to hit the like button if you liked it, and if you didn't, hit it anyway or else you'll get roasted, but that's fine with me. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, because I'm dropping videos every damn week, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. I'm out.